Today I'm here with Russell, and he's a technical support manager in the building industry. And I just want to ask Russell three quick leadership questions. So thanks for having this chat, Russell.
No worries.
The first thing I wanted to ask you about is when have you learned kind of the most valuable leadership lesson the hard way?
I think it was for me starting with a new business and being handed a team of 4 technical advisors, and I was the youngest, and I wasn't even really in the industry per se. And I was handed this team, and I'd come out of being a doer and being busy all the time, meeting targets and accomplishing things. And then next thing, I've been given this team to manage, and I was still task driven. So I was trying to fill up my time with tasks and manage this team, and I struggled with the fact that I was busy, and I felt good because I was still being busy and achieving targets, but I didn't have time for my staff. And realizing very quickly that actually I had to say no to some things, and using that Covey's matrix of important things, and realizing that actually I needed to say no to some stuff, and using that matrix to help break down what I could say no to.
Right.
And that meant that I could now have these white spaces in my calendar.
Yep.
And that's when these random conversations would come along.
Okay.
Really important little conversations would happen on the fly, and
Yep.
I was no longer too busy to talk to. I now had time, and but I learned that lesson the hard way. It took me a wee while to come around to the fact that I didn't have to always be doing something.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So a really good thing about that is you can get caught in the urgent and being totally full, but if you've got time for the important things like your one-on-ones with your staff, having some time for conversations, ad hoc ones that you might have passing through the corridors or in the office.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Really, really good. Second question: what is a small shift in leadership that you think we need to see that might have a great impact?
I think it's really important to not despise the small things, because sometimes small changes can have a big impact when you add them all up.
Yep.
And I really found that for me, a big change, a small step that made a big change was being consistent.
Yep.
And being consistent with the feedback I'd give, with my mood, with how I would, even with how much time I'd spend at my desk and what day I'd be where, and and so little things like having coffee at the same time every day, and walking up through the office and saying hi to everyone, getting my coffee, and and that was a consistent thing, and everyone started going, well, here's his routine, but also being and they'd catch me in the hallway because they knew I was going to come fast, get my coffee, having these little conversations, but also being consistent with my feedback. So I couldn't be all positive one day and then negative the next day, trying to even that out, be positive. And so it was just a small change, but a small change in attitude and mood. And I think often managers will wear their heart on the sleeve, and they'll be grumpy because they're under pressure or they're stressed. Well, you've got to be consistent.
Yeah.
And so it's a small change, but it's just a matter of taking a breath and being consistent in the way you give feedback, so that the workers aren't saying behind the boss's back, "Oh, he's in a bad mood today. Watch out for him."
So it's always undulating between positive and negative. They don't know what they're going to get. And they often say that people will join an organisation, but they'll leave their immediate leader because it's their mood or attitude that has.
And I've been on the receiving end of that.
Yeah. We all have.
It's good to be consistent and not have everyone on eggshells around you saying, "Look, I might be busy and I might be a bit stressed, but you can always come to me, and you're not going to get your head bitten off."
And thanks, Russell. And the last thing is around what would be a practical leadership tip that you would give sort of young emerging leaders coming through?
I think realizing that everyone has a strength and everyone's different. So when you've got a team of people, particularly, to look for the strengths in those people, look for the gold in them, and saying, you know what, you're great at public speaking, I'm going to grow and develop that, and I'm going to use you where you're good, I'm not going to put you in a position where you're not comfortable. So some people hate public speaking, so you don't push them too much, and you want to grow and stretch them, but you don't want to make them do things they're not comfortable with doing. So you look at a team, you look at who's the diversity in the team, who's good at what, but once you've done that, don't settle and go, here you go, this is yours. You always look for the gold in that person, and you call out the gold in them. You call out that they could always, not in a negative way, in a positive way, that you always can do better. And the growth behind every opportunity, because you're only as good as your last phone call. You're only as good as your last email.
Yeah.
And so looking for and having that positive growth mindset of growing and not resting on your laurels too much, but being positive about what you've done, but being positive about what you're going to do. And everyone has that gold in them.
Yeah.
And so being aware that if you push someone, push them in a positive way. Don't ever be negative about it, though. It's always has to be a positive approach. But that's a tip I'd give.
Fantastic, Russell. Love your leadership approach and tips, and because I'm really looking to highlight Kiwi leaders, and because I think we have fantastic leaders in New Zealand, so I really appreciate that, and look forward to getting feedback. So if you've got any feedback on what you're hearing us talking about today, love to hear it. And thanks for giving up your time, Russell. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for your help. Cheers.
No worries.